So in the movie business, it's called a retake. Hello, Tom.
Hello, mate.
How are you, mate?
Yeah,
I'm
very well,
fantastic.
thank
It's good to see you. I'm glad to have you here as well, mate. How's your day
you.
been? You all right?
Yes, yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Still working, but so if I have to go, I might have to go. But we will see. Let's see how long I can stay for.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all.
How are you
No, it's
anyway?
just,
All right? All good?
yeah. I'm all good, mate. I've had a tremendous day in the day job. Absolutely shattered, but there is plenty going on, and we haven't had a live for a little while. I think it might have been about 6 or 7 days. So, in the words of Craig David, so we thought we've got a few things to talk about, haven't we? One or two things going on.
Just a little bit. There's quite a few bits happening as we speak. I think
Where
time to
should
sort
where
of,
should we start? Shall we just be different? Shall we just be
yeah,
different in true
yeah,
Una
go for it.
Gathering fashion? Let's talk about the headline news, as everyone's going to be really excited. But let's talk about Gabriel Magalhaes, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that
Just
because everyone's talking about Sheshko. Let's talk about Gabriel.
who? Never heard of him. No. So, as we all know, there's a bit of talk about Gabriel Magalhaes in contract talks. His contract might run out in a couple of years, and talks that contract talks are progressing very nicely. Obviously, picked up a rather major hamstring sort of injury, didn't he?
Yeah.
And was really missed. You know, in terms of, I say really missed. Well, Kivior came into the side and done well, but
Yes.
I think it's fair to say it's probably been our most consistent player at Arsenal, I think, for about 2 or 3 years. Tell me your
Um,
thoughts there.
yeah, I think if you take it over a 3-year period, he's got to, him and Saka have got to sort of be the two most consistent
Mm.
players over that period. Players like Raya, obviously not been here for the whole 3-year period. Odegaard had 2 good years, one off year, and so I think that's absolutely right. And I think had he stayed fit for the whole season, I think he would have probably been Player of the Year. But he's obviously a player. You're right to say we missed him, but Kivior stepped up really admirably, more than admirably,
Yeah.
in his absence. But I think this doesn't surprise me. There's been talks about new contracts for him, Odegaard, Wanyeri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and others been ongoing. Saka as well, been ongoing for a while. And there've been reports that actually Arsenal were confident this was going to get done. So it's no surprise, but I think it's good news. And I think, Arsenal, like all major clubs, getting the PR out at the right time. It's been a difficult season. Now getting it
Yeah.
out when just to sort of lift spirits and lift sort of hopes going into the transfer window, and really signalling their intent there. And I think this is part of that. I'm not surprised to see him, likely re-signing.
Yeah, exactly. Just realised my background wasn't working. Press a button. There it was. So there you go. That's that. That's all. It's expected he's going to be back for the start of pre-season training as well, I believe, isn't it? So being that we have one defender in Timber just recovering from his surgery, one has already left, as we know, in Tierney's heading to Celtic. At least if we can get a signature done on that one, at least we'll be a little bit more settled. And there's
Yeah,
still
exactly.
questions. There's still questions on Kivior, isn't there? I mean, with him playing a lot of games at the back of season, I think it adds value to his price tag if indeed he does want to end up leaving the club. I wouldn't do it, but some might.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think we you want to sort of show that solidity and you want to show that you can keep your best players. I think that's really important for attracting players. And I think defensively, Arsenal won't want to sign more than one defender this year. They've got other areas they want to be focusing on. And they say I wouldn't sell both Kivior and Zinchenko. I think it's one or the other because you don't want to necessarily be bringing in two defenders. You just want one. So, I think Gabriel is really, really important signing. And I wonder if this might start a domino effect. And I wonder if a lot of these deals are closer to being done than is being reported, so that Arsenal can sort of go bang, 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 a week or so apart. You know,
Yeah.
do you remember? I can't remember the players now off the top of my head, but I think it was the sort of English core. So it'd have been British core, Wiltshire, Ramsey, and they got all
Yeah.
four, Walcott, and they all signed on, on the same day. That sort of thing. Go, hey, look,
Ramsey as
we
well
signed
was
in the
in that.
last 2 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I wonder if something like that might be sort of in the offing, for sort of Arsenal, that sort of thing. I'm not necessarily all announced on the same day, but just that trickle effect coming through. Don't know,
Yeah.
just a theory, but I think Saliba would be the one I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the rest signing. I think they will have.
No, I agree. I agree. That's the one that we do have a bit of a worry about with the known interest about Real Madrid as well. I mean, I think we've discussed that as well. Before that. Yeah, we probably expect him to sign, but wouldn't be surprised at some stage him going to Madrid. But where we are at a shorter contract length here, it kind of devalues it a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, with Saliba, I could see something like a 1-2 year extension to his current deal, and at some point during that deal, he goes to Real Madrid. I think he's always wanted to go to Real Madrid, and I think he will go to Real Madrid.
Yeah, yeah. Probably at this stage, I'll say a hello to a few people in the chat. Luca Talks Ball was already in the chat before I even pressed the go live button. He's saying why are we saying signing Sesko? We'll get into it. We'll get into Sesko. Jez is in the chat. Arsenal history and more is there. Cooper is there as well. I know that name from True Gooner, don't I?
Yes, right. Yes, I've just messaged you back, Cooper, on your question. So, yeah. But hopefully you'll get an answer on here too, because your question very similar to Luca's. Not the same, but similar.
Fair enough. So, right, we've covered the Gabriel. Now, there's talk about some strikers. That's a surprise, isn't it? Let's be surprised that the whole fan base is going into meltdown, shall we? Because there's a camp Gyökeres and there's a camp Cisco by the sound of it, and it looks like you're either right for picking one in Gyökeres or you're right for picking Cisco. Depends on who you're talking to. Now,
I have a very nuanced position on this one.
Well, we'll get into it because this is where I promote as well, yes, because I saw your video earlier on today saying that it wouldn't surprise you if Arsenal are actually talking to the pair of the clubs, both Lisbon and the other one, which will come to Leipzig. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's difficult doing this live, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this was our talk, wasn't it? Yeah, you haven't got your notes.
It's all off the top of me,
But that's what I love these things, right? When we do it off the top of our heads. I mean, I always do no notes, but
you're known in the biz as the one take wonder, mate. I
was going to say something blue then, but I refrained.
No, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. And Noel Kane has just joined us as well. He's saying that he thinks 95 million is a waste of money for a 21-year-old kid. Okay. And the question's being asked, has Gyökeres rejected? Now, I've not heard
this one.
Please.
No. So just as you were sort of hinting at there, no, there are no reports that Gyökeres has rejected Arsenal. In fact, apparently, you've got to take these with a pinch of salt. Portuguese reporters saying that he's already agreed to deal with Arsenal. English reporters slightly less forward-leaning from what I've seen, but that he's had very, very positive talks with Arsenal, but is in discussions with a number of clubs. So no deal's been done, but he certainly hasn't rejected Arsenal by any stretch of the imagination. As you're sort of alluding to there, I think that Arsenal are talking to both. I think you always have to take transfer rumours at this sort of time with a little bit of a pinch of salt until you get really reputable people reporting them. Romano is now reporting on Sesko, and actually a couple of reliable English reporters, not quite to the level of Romano, are reporting on Gyökeres in addition to the Portuguese sort of reporters. I think my view is that Arsenal are talking to both, and I think there's a very good reason for talking to both. There is a very limited striker pool this summer. You've got players like Ekatike from Frankfurt, very raw, very untested. Liam Delap, another one, but he's gone to Chelsea. Then you've got Osherman, who is reportedly wanting a base salary, and that is a base salary of £450,000 to £500,000 a week, which is, almost double what Arsenal's top earner does.
It's almost as much as I earn at Tesco's.
Well, I can imagine. Yeah, in our lifetimes, right? But that's before bonuses on goal bonuses, appearance bonuses, etc., etc.
Right.
So you're looking at all this stuff and going, actually, that's quite a lot of money. So that probably rules him out, which really leaves you Gyökeres or Šeško, because Isak is almost certainly not on the market. And you've got
What?
Liverpool. I know. He didn't fancy that train down.
No.
But you've got quite a few.
Good evening, sir. You know who, if he's watching.
He won't be. But
Be serious.
You've got several sides looking for a striker. So therefore, let's say Gyökeres, for argument's sake, is your number one choice. You want to be talking to your number two choice. And, it doesn't matter whether Šeško or Gyökeres is your number one choice. Because if one falls through, you do not want to be way behind on the other one and playing catch up. You want to be in a. I think Arsenal will trigger one of these two, and I think they're hedging. For me, I go Gyökeres. I think we are in win now mode, and he's your win now striker. He's also cheaper.
Right.
Is a good thing for us because it means we can put money elsewhere. Although I do not think Arsenal, unlike last year, have any financial fair play issues here. But I do think Šeško has the higher ceiling, but he is much more raw at this moment in time. And it doesn't obviously guarantee you he's going to meet the ceiling. So to Niall's point, £95 million for Šeško, I think is an payment. If you were to say do a deal at Leipzig at 60 million now and 30 million in add-ons based on performance-related pay, then that starts to become more reasonable. So it'll depend on the structure of the deal. Quite often you get the top transfer fee reported. It's 93 million, but actually you find out that actually 20 million is on this and 10 million's on that, and it doesn't always add up to the full amount. So you have to be careful with these sorts of things. But I think that they're talking to both. I really do, and I think that's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I actually agree with a large part of that.
Which one would you sign, Lee, out of interest?
Now, I've seen more of Gyökeres than I have of Šeško, but it's and that's largely because of the bits of the Champions League that I've seen. But
of course, they played City, didn't they? And he scored 3. So a lot of people have seen that game,
and that's why people, I think, because of the damage he did in that game against City, it gets a lot of the Arsenal fans had their eyes on that, thinking, "Oh yes, please, I'll have a bit of that." But then, and I hadn't seen much of Šeško. That's me being completely honest with you. Then before I've gone on here tonight, it's funny because these wonderful montages of the best of magically appear on Twitter. It's incredible how it happens. It's almost like they're all pre-prepared, and you see different aspects of the player. So I've seen Šeško play a bit today. And he's 6'5"? He's a tall lad. He's got plenty of technical ability from what I've seen. Now, there's two things I think we should talk about. That Šeško plays in Germany in the Bundesliga, right, which is widely considered to be a very physical, tough sort of league. And of course, Gyökeres plays in Portugal, which, in all due respect, might not have the competitiveness all the way down that league. Let's also talk about his goal figures. Scored a lot of penalty kicks, hasn't he?
19 this season.
That's great if you've got a specialist spot kick taker. You never know when you're going to need a penalty until that crucial moment, and then it goes wrong.
Yeah, and you still got to score.
Just look at the cup final. Just look at the cup final. With
99th minute.
Exactly. And then something can go terribly wrong. But it's a case of, I don't know. Again, the ready-made thing, I kind of understand what we're saying. But then I wouldn't it be just nice just to see what happens? And then if one comes through the door, let's give them a chance to kick a ball before we start prejudging, I think is the word I want to look at. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think you're exactly right there. There's a nuance to the ready-made. I think what I mean by that is he's in his peak. So in theory, he should now be at his best for the next 3-4 years, which coincides with Arsenal being ready to sort of win. But there are no guarantees that you will transition to a new club, even if you're moving within the country. And,
Yeah.
you spoke about the Portuguese league being weaker, and I think that's absolutely right. I might have mentioned it just now in my answer, but
Yeah.
and the penalties are there, but he still scored 30 goals that weren't penalties, including 6 in the Champions League. So I think it shows that he can do it. And I also think, I know this sounds daft, but I wanted him when he was at Coventry and he went to Sporting. I thought for the price tag, he was worth the punt, because I was like, Coventry aren't that great, and he's scoring goals in the Championship, and while not every striker that scores in the Championship goes on to score in the Premier League, I just felt that physically he was he looked like he could sort of transition across really, really well. I just thought, this is a guy that will score goals, and I think he's gone and proved it at Sporting, but it doesn't mean he will in England. But I really think he will. But I think Šeško will too, but probably to a slightly lesser extent to start with, because I think he's that little bit more raw. And I also think the difference between the two is, and this is partly why I also prefer Gyökeres, I think he is a tactical fit, but I think he's a slightly less of a tactical fit than Šeško. I think Šeško is and I'm being very simplistic in this, is a copy and paste of Kai Havertz in many ways. So there's a difference. I think he's more willing to take on a shot. I don't think his touch and sort of link-up play is quite as good, but similar sort of style of striker is basically what I'm saying. Gyökeres, I think, can do that, but he also likes to drift wide. He, likes to be a little bit more direct, and is certainly very good on the counter-attack, but I think has a physical attributes to be effective against low blocks too. But that's slightly different. But I like that because actually it's not totally dissimilar to what we have in Havertz, but it's something slightly different, giving us two options if plan A isn't working.
Yeah, and there's no harm in having someone else to supplement what we already have. I'll read Matt's comment up first because that makes sense to me at this stage. Matt saying that I read somewhere that Gyökeres has only scored 5 open play goals against the top half of the Portuguese league. But then again, we balance that up. I don't know if that's actually accurate or not because I haven't seen it. But
I don't know.
But we have seen him do well in the Champions League as well. At this stage, because we opened with it, and Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted on it with Gabriel Magalhaes. So on the verge of reaching agreement of a long-term deal valid until June 2030.
That is a long deal. That's what, 4-year extension, 5-year extension.
Exactly, and if they can do that with him,
well, 3-year extension, but 5-year contract.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that nails down any sort of question there, doesn't it? And it might have been in some fans' mind, including myself, that when we started the season, it was a bit questionable because of a Saudi bid that came in. So if we can get one centre back nailed down and signed, I wonder if the other one would follow. I don't know if I want to spend too much time about that because we kind of moved on from it. But
yeah, I mean, I think Gabriel, that's basically him saying, I'm here for the duration, right? I believe in this and I'm here. I'm going to not end my career here, but I'm going to end the better part of my career here, which I think says a lot about what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And Matt says here, that'd be great news about Big Gabby. Right. So
I've probably got about 5 minutes, mate, and then I'm going to have to drop back to work. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine, mate. I wasn't going to go long on this because I wanted to cover the Gabriel one and talk about the strikers. I have another theory.
Go on,
theory.
Yeah, go for it.
Talking of the strikers. What if Arsenal signed, say, Šeško, who people were saying is maybe not the raw article, if you like. What if we signed another experienced player, maybe on a slightly different age bracket, from a club that might be needing a bit of money because they haven't got Champions League? They haven't got Champions League football. What about if that happens? When you imagine if we have a front line of Watkins, Havertz, and Šeško plus Martinelli, I would imagine Trossard probably stays. And then, of course, you can back it up with the natural Spanish forward as well, Marino.
I mean, I think Marino will move back to midfield, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think he's slightly disrespectful in that midfield role, but he's going to be a squad player. I said when he signed, he will be the 8 this year, and he'll be the squad player going forward. I was slightly wrong on the 8 this year because things didn't work out that way with the injuries, and then he moved to front. But I want and Thomas Partey stayed fit as well. So none of those things were probably expected. But I'm not sure on Watkins. I think there's two reasons for it. I think one, I think whether you like Havertz or not, he's going to get minutes, and I think Havertz will get minutes. Possibly sort of wide subbing for Saka a little bit, or covering for Odegaard with Wanyeri. I also think he'll get minutes in the number 9 role. I think he'll start the season as number 9 and then transition out into the squad player, which is what I always thought he'd come when he signed. But I think he's a very good squad player to have. But I don't think you have as your number 9. You'll have Jesus in theory back in January. I don't think you have Havertz, Gyökeres and Watkins. I think Arsenal are better off putting that money towards a wide forward for a start. Secondly, why help out Villa at this point?
I don't know if it's helping them out because it will be taken away one of the top scorers.
Well, it won't, but they're going to have to do something, right? So you're right, they're going to lose a top scorer and they're going to have to replace that somehow. But, Watkins, after this summer, his value plummets dramatically, because his contract will be 1 year lower. He'll be a 1 year older. I think Watkins is a really good player, but I think Arsenal should be aiming higher than that and longer term than that. And secondly, I think you're giving them 50 million plus this summer. Let's not make it easy for them, right? I think someone probably will, and it will be fine. But I think for all those reasons, you don't do that.
So basically, you're raising your standards. That's what you're saying.
I think Arsenal are raising the squad.
It's going to be one of our catchphrases.
It's going to be our new catchphrase. Yeah, no, I got it. But
absolutely. Shall I ask another question, or do you want?
I've got 4 minutes, and then I will need to go and do something. As advertised, I thought I might have to drop, and I do.
Okay, no problem. Right, I'll try and keep it really quick because it's going to be. I want to talk about Zubimendi very briefly, because he's the one that is probably expected to come in next week. Question mark, maybe.
Delayed. Yeah.
Tell us why it might be delayed, if you could.
Did you clock this earlier? I messaged you, didn't I? So yeah, you did. So Zubimendi looks like it's going to be done, right? I don't. There's not going to be a problem with it. Assuming he passes medical, which he will. Arsenal are negotiating a fee rather than triggering a release clause for FFP reasons. You can stagger the payment. It's also in Sociedad's interest to do that. So there's not going to be an issue with that. There is an issue about when the first payment is made. Sociedad, by all accounts, keen to have it into the next financial year because they have 2 big sales in this financial year period. FFP is over 3 years, so by getting over 2, that really, really helps them sort of keep their books looking healthy. Arsenal don't have a lot of money, but would like to get some of the money into this year because they do have a little bit of flex that they can use. So they'd like to try and use that there. So that seems to be the sticking point. I suspect a deal will be done where Arsenal will lower the first payment to Sociedad and make a bigger second payment, and something like that will happen. There are no suggestions at all that this is going to fall through. Hopefully, he has already signed the contract subject to the agreement of the price, because at that point he can't back out. But given his history, there will always be a concern until this guy comes through the door, because he pulled out of talks with clubs last year, then changed his mind, looked like he's going to Liverpool, and then pulled out again on Liverpool. So, that's the only concern there. But by all accounts, there's going to be no issue between Arsenal and Sociedad. It's a bit like the Calafiori one last year, although that was complicated by Bologna having to talk to his previous club because they owed a future payment there about the structure. That became even more complicated. But Arsenal have a good relationship with Sociedad. There's going to be no issues. No one is reporting there's going to be an issue here, but it could delay the signing of it. Plus, he's going to be playing for Spain in the Nations League, so that could delay it as well, because he's going to be focused on that. So I don't think this is going to be announced soon, but I don't think any of us need to worry.
Yeah, fair enough. There is a question of how much Zubimendi will change our playing style as well, because he plays somewhat deeper. would it free up the likes of Martin Odegaard and stuff, and maybe free up some of the wider positions as well? Do you think?
Interesting, because I think Partey plays relatively deep too. I'd like to see Odegaard a little bit closer to the strikers, to be fair. I really would. But, he plays in a slightly different style to Partey, so he's slightly less physical. He sort of relies on reading the game more, sort of a bit more like Rodri. But his passing is less sloppy, and it's certainly that. Do you remember when Partey first came through, that passing through the lines was so dangerous, and he provides that. So I think this is Arsenal sort of going back to what they thought they had in Partey, although slightly less physical version, but with a slightly different plus side in terms of reading the game and stuff. But I think him and Partey as options at 6 are very, very strong for us from an Arsenal perspective.
Yeah, as like I said, with Marino there as well.
Marino will be the ball carrier if Rice is unavailable, right?
Precisely. And I think that's possibly a very strong area for us.
I'd like to see a more attacking option brought in there, though. I really would, as a sort of option. I'm a big fan of Eze, because I think you can play him on the left if you need to, and you can play him as a left 8. And I'm really, I think for when
really
we're struggling to
talented
break down the World Cup and we need a goal late on, he's something that adds a little bit different. I'd like to see that sort of profile come in, but I don't think it will. And I can't think, it might have been Charles Watts talking on this. He was sort of asking about this, and he was being told that Eze looked unlikely because Arsenal didn't want to block the pathway for players like Wanyeri and Dalman coming through. So there's logic to that. So Arsenal, we recognise we need this, but also we don't want to block this pathway for these two talented youngsters. So, I can sort of see the logic there, which suggests it's not going to happen, but I'd still like it to. But if you could be a 30-year-old that does that job, then, maybe you can sort of do both, but I don't know who that 30-year-old is. Mostly because I haven't checked.
Is it me?
Yeah. I think we might be the wrong side of 30.
you might be right there. You might be right there. I'll just say, obviously, I know you're going to get back to work in a moment, so I think we will end up. I'm about to attend to family business as well, so it's a short stream today. Maybe we'll have more of these sort of these lives, but they'll be slightly shorter over the closed season. We do have a couple of things sort of in the works, shall we say, for some pre-records to come out over the summer as well. I must give you an opportunity to plug anything that you might have ready to go out for the morning potentially.
I don't have anything for the morning because I put out a video just now on Šeško and Gyökeres. But I might have something sort of after work. I might record something. But I think we've just covered the news, but I might just cover Gabriel's contract and put that out in the morning. And sort of what I think that means going forward. But, normally there's a short out most mornings at 8. I suspect that will drop off slightly in the off season. But, hey, there's a lot of news today that we weren't expecting, Lee, which is why we're suddenly live.
Exactly. As you close towards 150 subs on Arsenal domination, many congratulations. Many congratulations on that. If you can help Gooner Gathering get closer to the 500, I think we're on 417, I believe it is now. So yes, it's all good stuff. We gained a couple of subs today, I understand. So
I only got amazing. One today. You're 2-1 up, Lee. 2-1 up.
Absolutely. But we're just about going to wrap this up. I think I will neaten the start of this up on StreamYards in a little bit, so we don't have that big gap at the start. Thank you guys for coming in and watching us a little bit impromptu. If you like what we do in Gooner Gathering and what we do on Arsenal Domination, please like, share, and subscribe to the channels. And we'll let you know when we are going to be live next. Of course, you can find our social media pages right there. You can find us at Gooner Gathering. In fact, I've pressed the button. I am a professional, really. But you get the idea. At Gooner Gathering, at Ghoulie Meads, and of course at AFC Domination. There we are. That's the right button. I think we're going to get out of here, Dom. Thank you very much for joining us, mate. And we'll see you all next time.
Cheers. Lee. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Dom.